In Regency-era London, your family name isn't just who you are. It's your rank, your reputation, and sometimes your entire survival strategy. Before the balls, the gowns, and all those stolen glances across crowded rooms, there were families. Old ones, powerful ones, broke ones, desperately pretending otherwise. And every single one of them had something to prove. Today, we're going through every important family in the town. Who they are, what they want, and what they're hiding. The Bassets and the Sharmas, two families who arrived at the town from very different directions and ended up far more tangled in its drama than either of them planned. Simon Bassett, the Duke of Hastings, came back to London with one goal: do his social duty, avoid marriage, and end the Bassett line as revenge against his cold and abusive father. His father had been ashamed of Simon's childhood stutter and treated him accordingly. Simon's response was to swear off ever having children, just to spite a man who was already dead, which is exactly as dramatic as it sounds. He met Daphne Bridgerton, they agreed to a fake courtship for mutual benefit, and then predictably fell in love. They have a son named August. Simon left the series after season 1. The Sharmas came from India. Kate, the eldest sister, arrived in London with one mission: find Edwina a good match. Edwina was the diamond of the season, beautiful, gentle, and thoroughly courted by Anthony Bridgerton. Kate's problem was that Anthony was clearly wrong for Edwina, and she knew it. Her bigger problem was that she and Anthony were obviously right for each other, and she knew that too. They spent an entire season in denial about it while everyone else watched. They eventually married, decided to go to India at the end of season 3, and their son Edmund was born there, named after Anthony's late father. Lady Mary Sharma, Kate's stepmother and Edwina's biological mother, was an English debutante who gave up a more eligible match to marry a widowed Indian tradesman, Kate's father, and followed him to Bombay. Kind, but not especially useful in a crisis. Both came in as outsiders, both left a mark. And if you're already hooked on the drama and want more of this, go ahead and subscribe right now, because it only gets messier from here. The Featheringtons. If there's one family in the town that is always either causing a scandal or sitting right in the middle of someone else's, it's the Featheringtons. The family was led by Lord Archibald Featherington, a known gambler who ran the estate deep into debt and then died at the end of season 1, leaving his wife Portia to sort out the disaster he left behind, which she did in her own chaotic way. Portia Featherington is the kind of mother who dresses her daughters in the loudest colors the town has ever seen, schemes constantly to marry them off regardless of whether her plans make any sense, and treats her youngest daughter like a background decoration. She is exhausting, relentless, and occasionally impressive in the worst possible way. Prudence married Harry Dankworth, Philippa married Albion Finch, and Penelope, the youngest, the one Portia dressed the worst and took the least seriously, turned out to be Lady Whistledown, the most powerful anonymous voice in the whole town. Portia had absolutely no idea. After Archibald's death, a distant cousin called Jack Featherington arrived to inherit the title and promptly tried to run a fake ruby mine scheme on the entire town. He was exposed by Colin Bridgerton and fled to America. Portia had briefly gotten involved with him, which is a detail the show drops with absolutely no ceremony and somehow makes it funnier. The Featheringtons also hosted Marina Thompson, a distant cousin who arrived pregnant, tried to marry Colin to cover it up, was exposed by Penelope's newsletter, and eventually married Philip Crane, the brother of her baby's father. Marina had twins, Oliver and Amanda. Her whole storyline is what happens when every plan goes wrong, but you survive anyway. By the end of season 3, Penelope and Colin's son Elliot inherits the Featherington title, which means Penelope, the girl who was never taken seriously in that house, ended up being the entire reason the family name survived. The Danburys. The Danburys don't need to scheme. They don't need to chase invitations. Lady Agatha Danbury simply walks into a room, and the room reorganizes itself around her. Born Agatha Soma Anderson, she was married young to the much older Lord Danbury, a man she did not love. The Queen Charlotte prequel shows just how early that unhappiness started. After his death, she became a widow with full control of her title and her life, and she never looked back. By the time we meet her in the main series, Lady Danbury is Queen Charlotte's closest ally, a maternal figure to Simon Bassett, the woman who sponsors the Sharma family's arrival in London, and quite possibly the most well-informed person in any room she enters. She always seems to know more than she lets on. Her brother, Lord Marcus Anderson, arrives in Season 3 from the countryside and quietly becomes Violet Bridgerton's love interest, which Lady Danbury handles with the kind of restrained amusement that only someone very secure in themselves can manage. The Danburys prove that power in the town doesn't always come from a title or a fortune. Sometimes it comes from being the person whose opinion actually matters. The Bridgertons. No family in the town gets more attention than the Bridgertons. 8 children deep, and somehow each one is more dramatic than the last one. The family is headed by Violet Bridgerton, born a ledger who married the late Viscount Edmund Bridgerton and had 8 children with him before he died from an allergic reaction to a bee sting, which is genuinely one of the most undignified ways to go out for someone with a title. Edmund never even met his youngest child, Hyacinth, because Violet was still pregnant when he died. After that, Anthony, the eldest, stepped up as the 9th Viscount Bridgerton, took on responsibility for the entire family overnight, and spent years treating marriage like a business transaction until Kate Sharma arrived and ruined all his carefully laid plans. Benedict is second, less interested in titles and more interested in art and a good time. Season 4 is his, and it follows him falling for Sophie Back at a masquerade ball in a very Cinderella-coded romance. The man has a soft spot for mystery, apparently. Colin is third. A restless traveler for most of the show, he eventually realizes that his best friend Penelope Featherington, who had been quietly in love with him for years, was right there the whole time. They marry, and their son Elliot ends up inheriting the Featherington title, neatly tying the two families together. Daphne, the eldest daughter, was the original lead. She married Simon Bassett, the Duke of Hastings, had a son named August, and then largely disappeared from the story after Season 2. That one still stings. Eloise is fifth, and the most frustrated by all of it. She has no interest in the season, no patience for the rules, and would genuinely rather read a book than attend another ball. Her story eventually leads her to Sir Philip Crane. Francesca, the 6th, was barely in the show for 2 seasons, and then had a quiet but genuinely lovely love story with John Sterling, the Earl of Kilmartin, beginning in Season 3. John's death in Season 4 set up everything that comes next for her. Gregory and Hyacinth are the youngest two, still mostly in the background for now. Hyacinth never met her father. Gregory is patient. Their stories are coming. The Bridgertons have old money, good reputation, and absolutely zero ability to keep their personal lives private, which, considering Lady Whistledown, makes perfect sense. The Royals. And then, at the very top of everything, the family that doesn't just participate in the Ton, but defines it entirely. Queen Charlotte, as shown in the prequel, came from Mecklenburg-Strelitz and married King George III in a match decided for her. What nobody told her was that George was already showing signs of mental illness and that much of their marriage would be spent in private struggle while she maintained the public face of the monarchy alone. She and George had 15 children. By the time of the main series, George is largely absent from public life, and Charlotte runs the social season entirely herself. She decides who the diamond of each season is. She watches everyone, and she has strong opinions about everything. Her friendship with Lady Danbury is one of the most compelling dynamics in the show, built on genuine respect between two women who understand exactly how much power they hold and how quickly it can be taken away. The royal family doesn't just set the tone for the ton. Queen Charlotte specifically is the reason the whole season means anything at all. Without her approval, none of it matters. Every family on this list, from the outsiders working their way in to the Bridgertons themselves, is ultimately playing a game she designed. That was every major family of the Tan, ranked from the outside in all the way up to the crown. If this helped you finally keep everyone straight, like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.